Srimad, His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki. Srimad, His Divine Prabhupada Bhakti-Charya, Asatara Srimad, His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Shri Guru Prabhupada Ki. Anantakosi Vaishnava Ki. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki. Shri Sankar Swami Prabhupada Ki. Perhaps Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shri Amakund Radhakund Shri Guru Govardhan Ki. Shri Mathur Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Navadvip Madhava Ki. Shri Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Gangamai Jamunamai Ki. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Marani Ki. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki. Shri Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki. Shri Prasad Distribution Ki. Harinam Prabhu Ki. Iskon Guru Vrinda Ki. Vaishnav Seva Vaishnav Sangha Ki. Vaishnav Acharyas Ki. Samvita Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories of glories to lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Lotus feet in our spirit.
I bow down to his lotus feet with grateful heart. By his grace, from prostration to tillson, I obtain the mercy of Krishna. O Krishna, my consciousness purified with words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the correction of wills and desires. He opens my dark and eyes with my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, where light of earth. From his light of great enemies, divine magnificence is his joy. The Vedic scriptures and his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and noble master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Gives us shade to go to sleep. Your favor is spread throughout the three worlds. We take shelter to your lotus feet. His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Please make his word with your mercy, so that the soft shelter and flourishing of his happy devotees, with the blessings of Sri Vaishnava Devi, and especially among the you and your devotees. Jai.
Takes a third light, and I can't go over the shore, I'm wonder if maybe And so you can actually rotate that fence over, you know, the fence you just put in the park. That's good. And you go through it.
Corridors and also this one. Is there a Fuji's one and a couple of them? Oh, yeah, that's right. Jaya
Disappearance day of Sri Rupa Goswami and Gauridas Pandit. Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Goswami was born in 1489 in the village of Balpachandradweep in Bengal. He was the son of a Saraswati Brahmin named Kumaradev. Moving to the town of Ramakeli, Dabir Khas, as he was then known, became one of the chief ministers of Nawab Hussain Shah, the Mohammedan ruler of Bengal. Here in Ramakeli, in the district of Malda, Rupa Goswami met Sri Chaitanya and decided to retire from his government post. He collected all the money he had accumulated during his service in gold coins, filling a large boat. He divided the money in a very exemplary manner, which should be followed by devotees in particular and by humanity in general. 50% of his accumulated wealth was distributed to the Krishna-conscious persons, namely the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. 25% was distributed to relatives, and 25% was kept against emergency expenditures and personal difficulties. Later on, when Sanatana Goswami proposed to retire, the Nawab was very much agitated and put him in jail. Sanatana Goswami, however, took advantage of his brother's personal money, which had been deposited with a village banker, and escaped from the prison for Sen Shah. Rupa Goswami met Lord Chaitanya at Prayag, and on Dasa meeting Ghat, that holy city, the Lord instructed him continually for 10 days. The Lord particularly instructed Rupa Goswami on the science of Krishna consciousness. Rupa Goswami stayed in Jagannath Puri in the association of Sri Chaitanya for some time. Later on, on the instruction of the Lord, he left for the holy city of Vrindavan to excavate the lost places of Sri Krishna's pastime and write books on devotional service. In Vrindavan, he had no fixed residence. He stayed beneath a tree for one day only and begged for food from the houses of Brahmanas. Giving up all kinds of material enjoyment, he would only take some dried bread and fried chickpeas. He would only carry a water pot and wear a torn cloth. He would spend his time chanting the holy names of Krishna, discuss his pastimes, and hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wrote huge volumes of transcendental literature. His numerous books include Dana Kili Comedy, Uddhavan Sandesh, and the Mahamsadutta narrative poems. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Vidakta Madhava, and Lohita Madhava dramas, Stavamala lyric verses, and Padyavi, an anthology of poetry, as well as the Krishna Janmati Ganadesha Dipika, Brihat and Laghu Akyata Chandrika, Mathura Mahima, and Natika Chandrika. Rupa Goswami was born in Sri Punjab. Shri Goswami Prabhupada ki Shri Gauridas Pandit. Gauridas Pandit, the emblem of the most elevated devotional service in love of Godhead, had the greatest potency to receive and to deliver such love. Making Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda the lords of his life, Gauridas Pandit sacrificed everything for the service of Lord Nityananda. It is said that Gauridas Pandit was always patronized by King Krishnadas, the son of Harihoda. Gauridas Pandit lived in the village of Shaligram, and later he came to reside in Ambika Kalna, which is situated just across the river Ganges from Shantipur. Formerly he was Subal, one of the cowherd boyfriends of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. Gauridas Pandit was the younger brother of Suryadas Sarakela, and with the permission of his elder brother, he shifted his residence to the bank of the Ganges, living there in the village known as Ambika Kalna. His eldest son was known as Big Balaram, the youngest is Raghunath, and his daughter was Annapurna. Before taking sannyas, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda visited Gauridas Pandit in Ambika Kalna. Fearing their impending separation, Gauridas cried and begged the Lord to stay longer. Mahaprabhu made lifelike neem-root deities of Gaurnitai to console his loving servant. Gauridas, my Murti form is as good as I am. We will forever remain in your home to accept your service, said Lord Chaitanya. Gauridas Pandit worshipped Gaurnitai in many intimate ways, talking sweetly to them, cooking a variety of tasty foods, discussing Shastra with them, and attending to their every need through the day. Even when old and feeble, Gauridas ceaselessly served his worshipful Lord, Sri Gaurnitai. Although poor, he desired to decorate Gaurnitai with costly, beautiful ornaments. Knowing his mind, Gaurnitai lavishly decorated themselves. Beholding their exquisite beauty, Gauridas became astonished. Where did they get these ornaments, he thought. One time, Chaitanya Das, Gauridas Pandit's foremost disciple, organized a huge Sankirtan festival on the bank of the Ganges. Enraptured by the kirtan, Gauridas' deities jumped off the altar and joined the devotees in chanting and dancing. Discovering the deities missing from the temple, Gauridas grabbed a stick and ran to catch Gaurnitai. Seeing his angry mood, the deities vanished. At that moment, Gauridas watched in amazement to see Gaurnitai enter the heart, Hridaya of Chaitanya Das. Gauridas embraced his beloved disciple and said, "You are most fortunate. From today, your name will be Hridaya Chaitanya, one who holds Sri Chaitanya within his heart." Since then, Gaurnitai's darshan at Gauridas Pandit's temple is offered in many brief intervals. To keep the deities from jumping off the altar, the pujaris open and quickly close the curtain throughout darshan time. That's Gauridas Pandit Pujari. That's the disciplines to these two great personalities. Chaitanya. Reading from Sri Prabhupada, chapter Chapter 7. The devotees were very happy to be together in the dam. Those with experience of India, like Jagataka Swami and Chutananda Swami, led groups of devotees on Parikram pilgrimage to local holy places. This visit to Mayapur would constitute the first half of the devotees' Indian pilgrimage. After 10 days, they were scheduled to go to Vrindavan. Almost all of the devotees assembled in Mayapur preached in the areas of the world where the most ignorance and passion predominated. Daily they had to mix with materialistic people, and it was inevitable that they would become worn down. This pilgrimage, therefore, was a chance for purification. Although they were not advanced in birth or in knowledge of the Sanskrit Vedas, Prabhupada had accepted them, and that was their certification as devotees. They were bona fide candidates for understanding the meaning of the Dhamma. They would become refreshed by bathing in the Ganges in Mayapur and the Yamuna and Vrindavan, and they would return to the respective centres throughout the world, purified and renewed of more active preaching. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad BHagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 11. Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Niboda tatidam ritam nosu. Niboda tatidam tam brahma bhavini. Mushitam devam harasya prameyam.
Ayushitam Devam Ahashapayam.
Vayam bhavaste tata isha maharishi.
Vayam Namaste Kata Ishmahashi.
Mahamasarve vivasha yashidishtam.
Mahamasarva Yudhishayam Shivisham.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Niboda tatidam tam bhavini.
Nibodatakita Vitam Brahmani.
Mashritam devamarasya prameyam.
Vashritam Devam Ahashapayam.
Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshi.
Vayam Namaste Kata Ishmahashi.
Mahamasarve vivasha yashidishtam.
Mahamasarva Yudhishayam Shivisham.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Niboda tatidam tam bhavini.
Nibodatakita Vitam Brahmani.
Mashritam devamarasya prameyam.
Vashritam Devam Ahashapayam.
Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshi. Mahamasarve vivasha yashidishtam.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Nibodatakam Vitam Bhavini.
Nibodatayam tam bhavini.
Vashritam Devam Ahashapayam.
Mashritam devamarasya prameyam.
Vayam Bhavaste Tata Esha Mahashya.
Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshi.
Mahamasarva Vivashaya Shatishtam.
Mahamasarve vivasha yashidishtam. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Nibodatate tam bhavini. Nibodatate tam bhavini. Masutam devam parasya pranayam. Masutam devamarasya pranayam. Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshi. Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshi. Mahamasarve vivasha yashidishtam. Mahamasarve vivasha yashidishtam. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Nibodatahidam tam bhavini. Vasuritam Devamadasya Pranayam Vayam Bhavasya Tata Esha Maharishi Vahamasave Vashavashishtam Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Person, Lord Brahma. So the Lord Brahma said, Niboda, kindly hear with attention. Tata, my dear son, Idam, this, Ritam, true, Brahmini, I am speaking. Ma, not. Asuritam, to be jealous of. Devam, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arasi, you ought. Aprameyam, who is beyond our experimental knowledge. Vayam, we. Baba, Lord Shiva. Tata, Father. Eshaha, this. Maharishi, Narada. Bahamaha, Karyat. Sarve, all. Vivashaha, unable to deviate. Yashya, of whom. Dishtam, the order. Translation. Lord Brahma, the Supreme Person within this universe, said, My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond our experimental measurements. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and the great sage Maharishi Narada, must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from this order. Please repeat. Lord Brahma, the Supreme Person within this universe, said, My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond our experimental measurements. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and the great sage Maharishi Narada, must carry the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Of the 12 great authorities in devotional service, 4, Lord Brahma himself, his son Narada, Swayambhuvana, and Lord Shiva were present before Priyavrata. They were accompanied by many other authoritative sages. Rama first wanted to impress upon Priyavrata that although these great personalities are all authorities, we cannot possibly disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described in this verse as Deva, which means always glorious. The power, glory, and potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be diminished. In the Upanishad, the Lord is described as Apampabuddhi, which indicates that he is never affected by anything materially considered sinful. Similarly, Srimad BHagavatam describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being so powerful that nothing you might consider abominable can affect him. An example sometimes given to explain the position of the Supreme Lord is that of the sun, which evaporates urine from the earth but is never affected by contamination. The Supreme Lord can never be accused of doing anything wrong. When Lord Brahma went to induce Priyavrata to accept the responsibility for ruling the universe, he did not go whimsically. He was following the dictations of the Supreme Lord. Indeed, Brahma and other genuine authorities never do anything without his permission. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. In the beginning of Srimad BHagavatam, it is said, Teni Brahma Hridaya Adhikari, the Lord dictated Vedic knowledge and took Brahma through his heart. The more a living entity is purified by devotional service, the more he comes in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Desham Satyavitanam Vajatam Priti Purvam Dadami Priti Yovam Tam Yena Mam Upayantati. To those who are constantly devoted in worshiping the Lord, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Lord Brahma therefore had not come to Priyavrata by his own whims. Rather, it is understood that he had been ordered to persuade Priyavrata by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities cannot be understood by material senses, and who is therefore described herein as Aprameya. Thus Lord Brahma first advised Priyavrata to hear his words with attention and without envy. Why one is induced to perform certain acts despite his desire to do something else is indicated herein. One cannot disobey the orders of the Supreme Lord, even if one is as powerful as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Manu, or the great sage Narada. All these authorities are certainly very powerful, but they do not have the power to disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Lord Brahma had come to Priyavrata in accordance with the orders of the Supreme Lord, he first wanted to dispel any suspicion that he might be acting as Priyavrata's enemy. Lord Brahma was following the orders of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it would be worthwhile for Priyavrata to accept Lord Brahma's order as the Lord desired. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, the verse again. Lord Brahma, the Supreme Person in the universe, said, My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord who is beyond our experimental measures. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and great sage Maharishi Narada, must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order. So just to recap, the point of this chapter is that the Swami of Manu, he has two sons, Maharaj Tanapada and Priyavrata. And so far in the BHagavatam we've heard about Tanapada Maharaj's activities. Because Priyavrata decided that he wanted to just take the path of self-realization, and he went to the forest to perform austerities and meditation to become self-realized, so he'd given up the desire to even rule or be a king. So Tanapad Maharaj actually became the king, and all the descendants up to the Prachetas were all descendants of the Tanapad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj included. And the Prachetas, after the Prachetas, there was no suitable kings to take up the rule of the kingdom of the world. So Swami Manu was in a bit of dilemma. So he decided to go to Priyavrata, who was performing austerities on the Skandinamadana mountain, and he wanted to persuade him to become the king. But Priyavrata was so he was really satisfied with being, performing austerities and taking to the path of spiritual life, that he wasn't interested in taking up the kingdom. So in order to persuade Priyavrata, then Lord Brahma also came along with different sages to try to convince Priyavrata to take up the kingdom. And so here in this verse, Lord Brahma is saying to Priyavrata that do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, because Brahma didn't come on his own accord. He actually came being dictated to by the Supreme Lord himself to come and convince Priyavrata to take up the throne. So here Brahma is saying, do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, because it's not, he shouldn't disobey the order of the Supreme Lord. Even although that order is coming through Lord Brahma, then it's his duty to accept that order, because even Brahma himself and Lord Shiva and Narada Muni, they cannot disobey what the Lord wants, they cannot disobey his order. So these great personalities, they're very pure in heart, and the Supreme Lord is a super soul within the heart, is dictating to them what to do. They're not just going according to their own whims. So the Lord directs us in many different ways through Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. These are the three ways in which the Lord directs the jivas, the devotees. And by following these three, then we know we're actually following what the Lord wants. Instead of going according to our own mental ideas or speculations or anything what anyone says. If we stick to following these three, Guru, Shastra and Sadhu, then we'll never go wrong. So here, although Priyavrata was so advanced in spiritual knowledge that he had no desire to become entangled again in material affairs, he didn't see the point in that. He was afraid, actually, he was afraid of the material energy, the illusory energy. He didn't want to give up his spiritual life and get entangled in the family and rule the kingdom. But even although he was so advanced that he was afraid of getting entangled, still the Lord wanted him to actually take up the kingdom and become a household, a king with a family. And in order to do that, he sent Lord Brahma to convince Priyavrata along with all the different sages. So this is a warning to us all that no matter how advanced we may become in our spiritual journey, then we should always take directions from authorities, our spiritual authorities, because the Lord directs through the devotees, through the spiritual masters, through the Shastras, to what we should do. So we should never think ourselves above Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. And here he says, do not be jealous, because when we don't want to do what somebody else wants us to do, then it's a sign of envy. It's a sign of jealousy. So here Lord Brahma is warning him, don't do that. Just accept what the Lord wants you to do. And so this is the story of Priyavrata. So this will continue to what Priyavrata does and how he continues on accepting the kingdom, accepting family life, and how he performs his activities. So for ourselves, we can take instructions from Priyavrata Maharaj and try to be cautious of material energy, but at the same time, we have to accept what's good for us, what's dictated by the Supreme Lord, what's dictated by the Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. So it's interesting, Priyavrata was in an age where people, it was a very good age for spiritual development. It wasn't an age where people got entangled in so many simple activities or illusory energy.
Yeah.
But still, he was actually very cautious and he was afraid. So what about us when we're bombarded with so much illusory energy in the form of internet, social media, so many distractions from the path of devotional service? How much we should be more cautious of Priyavrata Maharaj, that we should actually take more caution. So we must be even more conscious of all these things, and we should also introspect, how am I doing, how I do during the day. It's not just that now that the japa is finished, sadhana is over after the morning program, then you just go about mindlessly doing things. We should actually be introspecting, how are we responding, how do we respond with this person. Could I be more Krishna conscious in my approach? Could I be more Krishna conscious in my response to this person instead of getting upset? We have to start to understand where we stand in our spiritual life, and Srila Prabhupada has given us the value system in his books So we need to see how we're actually performing our activities, our devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada has given us all these books. These are like the weapon to counteract illusory energy. And the more we read these books, the more we associate with Srila Prabhupada, and the more we'll become purified, because the best association is association of a pure devotee. So Srila Prabhupada, being a pure devotee, he can help us become purified by his association. So it's not just a mundane book that we read, it's we're associating with pure devotees. Along with Srila Prabhupada, along all these great personalities in the Srimad BHagavatam, they're great pure devotees. So by associating with them, then we can become stronger in our spiritual life. This will help us to counteract illusion, distractions, Maya. It's a very powerful tool, very powerful weapon. And so by attentively chanting, associating with Srila Prabhupada through his books, and these are the two methods by which we can really stay fixed in devotional service without being distracted or deviated by illusory energy. And if we don't find satisfaction in the sadhana, if we don't find satisfaction in serving just simple devotional service, then no matter what happens, no matter what we do in life, we'll never be satisfied. Because these are the things that will help us, will give us satisfaction, even although we go through so many trials and tribulations in life. These are the two things that will help us become satisfied. Is chanting holy names with firm faith, with determination, with affection for the Lord, and by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by associating with all these great personalities, and by performing simple devotional service. So by following Srila Prabhupada's instructions, we become happily situated. So it's if we base our spiritual life according to Srila Prabhupada's books instead of what we see, because in the materialistic world, people are basing their value system on what they read in the newspapers, what they hear about great celebrities, so-called great personalities, and so their value system is to become like them. That's their role models, to become a great actor or a rock star or a pop star or a great businessman or so-called leader in society. But if we read Srila Prabhupada's books, you can always stay aligned with the value system in Prabhupada's books. So even if we always have to keep in line, like when people are driving, we always have to keep a hold of the steering wheel to keep it in line, because the car sways this way and that way, so it's not automatically going to go straight. So in the same way, we can easily get distracted and deviated in different ways. Maya is very strong, so we always have to keep in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books, with the holy name, so we can stay aligned in spiritual life. And so this is the way to actually live a happy life, a satisfied life. And most people, they're not actually happy because they spend most of the time worrying about things that don't even concern them. And they're trying to achieve things that are not going to give them happiness either. They think it will give them happiness, but it'll never give them satisfaction. So, any questions or comments?
You just were jealous. You shouldn't be jealous. Just wondering what the significance of using that word is.
Well, I mentioned earlier that because he wanted to imply to Priyavrata that it says at the end of the purport that Brahma had come to Priyavrata in accordance with the orders of the Supreme Lord. He first wanted to dispel any suspicions that he might be acting as Priyavrata's enemy. So he wanted to make sure that he understood, so I'm not your enemy, so don't be jealous.
It's referring to the Supreme Lord, isn't it? Saying don't be jealous of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, because he's acting on behalf of the Supreme Lord. It's not, Brahma's not just coming according, on his own.
I thought it was maybe because the Supreme Lord isn't involved, and he was in the forest, just living a very spiritual, peaceful way of life, and then he was being asked to now take on all this burden of looking after a huge kingdom. And he was saying, don't be jealous of the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord's carefree, he doesn't have any problems. So he could be jealous like that, thinking, why do I have to do all this? And that's why the Supreme Lord's just,
It's possible, but it's like, in the context here, it's more like that Lord Brahma's, but it says Lord Brahma was following the orders of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it would be worthwhile for Priyavrata to accept Lord Brahma's order as the Lord desired. So it's like, so don't, like if somebody wants you to do something that you don't really want to do, that person's like, it becomes your enemy, so you become, in one sense, that's like an envy. It's not like envy that we see, like it's more like hate, like, it's not envy in the normal sense that you're jealous of somebody that's got something that you don't have. That's what you're thinking, right? That Supreme Lord is free.
Well, there's a reference when Sri Rama says that Vajrayanandis sometimes avoid shouldering hardships to spread Lord Chaitanya's mission. So they, because they have that aversion to want to take up the hardships, and they want to just lead a more peaceful way of life and just do their bhajna. So he says because they've got that impurity there, then they can't, they'll have to get free from it until they're in the pure devotional service. So Priyavrata has gone into the forest. He wants to avoid any hassle at all. So and then he's being asked, no, the Lord wants you to do it. So he couldn't reject it, said no. In the same way, you could reject Lord Chaitanya's order, which you want to spread the mission, and say, no, I want to be peaceful. So it's a kind of jealousy that you resent, infringement upon your peace and freedom to just live a carefree life, you don't let that interfere with. So that's a kind of spiritual immaturity. If you want to become a pure devotee, you have to be ready to do whatever is asked of you.
Yeah, it's a nice point, and also heard Radhanath Mercy is something similar. He says, love does not mean peace, love means to serve, to want to serve. So it's not that we want to get the goal isn't just to become peaceful, the goal is to serve. So Priyavrata Maharaj was thinking, well, it's going to be a complete hassle to take up the kingdom and get up so entangled in all that family life, and then I've got to get out of all that entanglement. So he was thinking that it's peaceful here in the forest and doesn't have to get involved. So, but that's not what the Lord wanted. So, just like it'd be more peaceful for us just to go and chant Hare Krishna somewhere and read Srila Prabhupada's books and not get all the headache of trying to run a temple and trying to manage this or that department. And,
This is here. This is from Srimad BHagavatam. The reluctance of spiritually immature Vajrayanandis, those who concentrate exclusively or mostly on their own spiritual advancement, to show the hardships for Lord Chaitanya's mission often hints at an escapist mentality. This trace of spiritual weakness hinders their advancement and must be cleansed in order for them to achieve pure devotional service.
Thank you. So that's the whole aim, isn't it? We don't just do things for our own convenience.
Well, the word jealousy, you were saying that between jealousy and envy, right? Jealousy is that somebody has something that you want and you want it, whereas envy is somebody has something you want and you think, why has he got it? I'm the one that deserves it. So in this case, jealousy is maybe that, well, the Lord's okay, he's being peaceful and careful. I would be like that as well.
That's true. But it's not that the Lord's not managing everything. The Lord is managing the whole universe, and ultimately He's. I read something in Prabhupada's purport that Krishna, the Lord doesn't sleep because He's always attentive to the desires of the living entities. So He's always there, fulfilling everyone's desires and making sure everything's happening. So He's actually maintaining everything and everyone. So it's not like He's not doing anything.
That's Paramatma. He's in everyone, isn't he? That's Paramatma. Krishna's just like Lord Chaitanya would spend 3 hours haggling with Srimad, calling over his anomalies. 3 hours was his schedule to just cancel this little call anomalies. So Lord Chaitanya wasn't thinking, that's the other things like that, but the whole universe can go here. So that's the Bhagavatam features of what Supreme Lord Shiva refers to it as he casts aside his Godhead. So just engaging. So Prabhupada was meditating on that carefully from the world, carefully hearing. And Shiva was saying, just recently when she Shastra Thing, he says that it's okay for God, he doesn't have no problems like we do. We struggle to do all kinds of things for him.
Yeah, but that's how we become dear to the Lord. There's also a place in the Bible, Shivamaji's book, Sadhana Dharma, and he's explaining that. It's also in the Bhagavatam that, BHagavatam, that the Lord is more affectionate to those devotees in the material world who striving for spiritual life, even though it's so difficult, because even more so than the eternal associates of the Lord, like Lakshmi Devi. He's more affectionate to Prahlad Maharaj than Lakshmi Devi, because the eternal associates, they've never actually gone through any problems or difficulties to actually attain that position. They're eternally there serving the Lord. But the devotees in the material world, they actually go through lots of upheavals, impediments, obstacles to become pure devotees. So they become more dear to the Lord than his eternal associates. So we have actually got an advantage. So in that case, then we've got, we can prove our love for the Lord by going through all these difficulties, still remaining fixed in our devotional service.
Right, thank you.
Is that okay? Lantrash Bhagavatam ki jai, Swami Devi ki jai, Shankar Bhai,
Jai.
Well, it's just sitting there. Well, yeah.
And just obviously seven. So you might long time, but this is because I was thinking of rubbish, you didn't know if it's 2 6 or rubbish.
Yeah,